Welcome to the Globe Economy podcast. My name is Tuan, the founder of Globes Media, and this podcast is where I sit down with the founders, creators, and the women shaping the future of beauty and culture. We talk presence, identity, story, and the systems behind influence. If you're building a brand, a body of work, or a world of your own, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Globe Economy. Welcome back to the Glow Up Economy podcast. Today's conversation is about a type of intelligence that often gets mistaken for confidence, right? The ability sometimes to read a room, to be able to adapt instantly and become sometimes exactly what's required in a given situation or a given moment and so on. And for a lot of us in social situations, right, whether it's in the business context or a social context, it's something that rewards us early until it starts costing us ourselves, right? So I'm actually joined today by Darina. She happens to write, and a lot of her work explores identity, a lot to do with, she talked a lot about things in regards to people pleasing in the moment where sometimes our performance stops working as a strategy for belonging, right? So this isn't really an episode that's about how to or about teaching or a guide or whatever. It's just a raw, off the cuff, honest conversation about essentially the edge of becoming, right? So, Darina, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about this conversation.
Yeah, love that. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you arrive at this point at the moment?
Okay. Well, I got into the coaching industry when I was very young, like 21, 22, and I really wanted just to serve. Like many of us get into the industry because we have some calling, we want to serve people, we want to help. But very quickly, I realized that I had so much fear and self-doubt that led me to procrastinate and to not be able to get anything done. Like I was really just struggling with getting over that fear of, being out there, showing up,
Mm,
teaching. And I was also 21, 22. So you can imagine that my sense of self was still volatile. I didn't
yeah.
have a solid sense of identity. I didn't have that core, like grounded confidence that I can just, you know, like base my actions on.
Yeah.
And it was really tough. So I got into exploring. I thought that I had a procrastination problem. I
Mm,
thought that it was a productivity problem. And I was exploring all the different modalities and ideas and ways to overcome my procrastination habits because I was extremely self aware of the fact that I was procrastinating and that it was weird because I was very ambitious and very driven and very much like I had so many big dreams and goals, and I just couldn't get myself to consistently follow through on the things that I wanted to do, which led me to not be able to actually achieve much, right? I would just like get
mm,
started and then I'll stop and then I'll get started and then I'll stop and then I'll get started. And it was really tough. And then I thought something was fundamentally wrong with me because I was like, how can someone be so self aware and then not be able to actually overcome those patterns?
yeah.
Anyway, I got into productivity coaching after that because
Mhm.
I spent like 5 years just trying to figure out what helps me to get stuff done, pretty much. And then I realized it was never a productivity problem. It was really an identity issue, or more so, you mentioned performance, people pleasing, a volatile sense of self. I
Mm,
just didn't know who I was yet, and I was trying to be seen a certain way, right?
mm,
Because when
mm,
we
mm,
expose
mm,
ourselves out there, and
mhm.
when we are, like when we are out there for people to see, we are also exposed to judgment, to rejection, to all of those things that if you don't have a grounded confidence yet, it's
Mm,
very tough to. Um, I mean that's honestly the main issue that people uh, deal with. Like it's
yeah.
it's what stops so many of us from going after what we truly want. It's never a productivity problem. It's really just about, are you grounded and confident enough, not confidence in a way of like being loud and being extra and being like, because that's what I thought confidence was when I was
Yeah.
younger, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like, oh, you have to show up as being confident. No, it's actually very calm, it's very grounded. It's very much so trusting yourself. It comes down to self-trust, right? Can you
Yeah.
trust yourself that you can figure it out if you mess up? Can you trust yourself that you'll be fine if somebody rejects you or your idea or judges you, but then you trust yourself that you'll be fine, like because you know who you are, you know what your values are, you know what you uh, believe in. Anyway, I'm getting off
Yeah.
topic,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, it just led me to explore a lot about courage, a lot about boldness. Like, what
Yeah.
does it take for one to be bold enough to go after what they truly want? And so
Hmm.
that's why I have the publication, the Bold Standard publication on Substack, and the podcast, which is with the same name, the Bold Standard podcast. And it's pretty much just um, focused on helping people be bold enough to follow their dreams, because
Yeah.
my biggest mission is to kind of bridge the gap between regret and action, because so many people die with their dreams still inside of them. Like there is 85% of people actually live with the regrets of unfulfilled potential and unfulfilled,
Hmm.
and I can relate because I spent so many years just like trying to figure out what is wrong with me for not being able to do that. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so that's
Yeah.
what my mission is. That's what I'm focused on. And it's been quite the journey. We can get into any
Yeah.
part of it if you want to. I don't want to like get too much
Yeah.
off topic, but that's like the summary.
I love that, and thanks for expanding and elaborating. And there's so many things that you spoke about, which landed. Most specifically, when you mentioned the point about getting into the coaching industry, right? Could be entrepreneurship in general, right? Especially when you're young, is you don't know who you are yet. So it's easy to borrow scaffolding from an identity, as you mentioned, what does confidence look like, or what does charisma look like, right? And then we might
Hmm.
see a certain, say, mentors which embody a certain facet, a certain way it looks. And when you're still
Hmm.
scaffolding and building that identity, it becomes easy to go, let me take on that for a while, right? And what does it do is, and you might have experienced this as well, is that rejection and setbacks become a little more tolerable. Like the identity that you would take on becomes almost like a scaffolding, a training wheel, so to speak. It works until it doesn't work, and then that's
Hmm.
when you're going
Hmm.
to come into contact with uh, yourself, right? Okay, which is like
Hmm.
shedding the layers and so on, which is something would be good to tap into, because you mentioned you wrote about being a social chameleon in one of your posters where you
Hmm.
said someone who could read a room and adapt
Hmm.
instantly, right? Which might be seen as a strength in some way, in some level, but and a lot of people see that as confidence, but you actually called it out and said you didn't, right?
Hmm.
What did you mean by that specifically?
That's a very good question and very interesting topic as well. So I actually always thought, and people always saw me as a very confident person, very extroverted. I mean, I still am. Like it's part of my character of being social, being extroverted. I like, um, I don't mind the attention. Let's put it that way. And I always thought I was very confident. People saw me that way. But when it came to entrepreneurship, when I got into entrepreneurship, I quickly realized that you have to be okay with plunging into the unknown, free falling, almost like bungee jump, and be okay with it. And you don't know what's going to happen. And I realized that my whole life I was trying to manage a certain perception of me or manage people's perception of who I was. And
Yeah.
that's very easy to do when you are not faced with uncertainty, right? I know what I do. I know how to look. I know how to present myself. I know what to say. I know how to read the room. I know who I should be. So you can like me. But if it comes to, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just getting in the industry. I'm just getting into business. nobody knows what they're doing when they get into business to begin with. Like everyone is just figuring things out, right? Like we no none of us do.
Yeah.
You may follow a blueprint, you may follow a mentor, you may follow an advice, but you are trying things. And
Yeah.
for someone who has a very volatile sense of self, just like myself, who had my whole self-worth based on external validation or what people thought of me,
Hmm.
doing that felt like a life or death situation. Like honestly, it felt like no, what do I need to like? How do I need to present myself? What do I need to say? What do I need to do? So, and pair that with the fact that the coaching industry is also not always very helpful in terms of feeding us ideas that are not necessarily applicable to people like myself. So if you're raised in a family that instilled in you a good sense of confidence, of um like you have developed, let's say, a healthy core self, then getting into business or entrepreneurship, it's still not like easy, but you at least you know who you are and you
Mm.
don't have that like desperate need to be liked or to be seen a certain way. And maybe that's just my theory, but I think that's why some people take a little bit longer to maybe
Mm.
get to a level that other people may get there faster. Like it depends how you were raised, like what kind of traumas you had, like of course.
Yeah.
Everyone's journey is different, but it feels like in the coaching industry and the personal development industry, everything is kind of generalized and they push certain ideas onto people and uh and then it makes you think that there is something wrong with you, like why am I not there yet, like well why is that person succeeding and I'm not, like what is wrong with me, and that is
Mm.
actually very toxic to a certain degree. So I think everyone
Mm.
should really be
Mm.
focusing on what feels true and right for them instead of what people say. But just
Hmm.
getting back to what I was originally saying, uh, is so yeah, like you have all of that advice and you try to follow it, but then it doesn't work for you and you don't know why. You're like, what is wrong with me? But you never think about actually first working on developing that inner core. I don't even know how to call it. I call it inner authority or sovereignty or something like that. Like something that
You're operating so
makes
almost like your personal operating system, would you say?
has to be intact. Has to be intact before you get before you get to any
Mm.
of the advice. Like okay, strategy, marketing, sales, brand, like all of those things it's like good, but it comes to secondary. You
Mm.
can't build anything if you don't have that foundation first.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I just remembered what I was getting to. Like the coaching industry, one of the advice or marketing strategies that is like given to us is you have to position yourself as the authority, correct? So
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
of course it's the branding thing. Like people have to see you as an authority in a certain industry so they can um, trust
Hmm.
you, things like that. But that, but when you still don't know who you are, and then you try to position yourself as an authority, what I found for me was that it was a way to still manage people's perception of me. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna do anything that make me uh, be seen as imperfect or vulnerable, or so. I was still managing that perception and it was not good because yeah, I mean maybe it was helpful what I was teaching, but it was not relatable because it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
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 And you can't get very far if you don't dare to be vulnerable. You just can't. Like you have to really just be okay. Like for me, I describe it as free falling. You just bungee jump and you're okay with being exposed and vulnerable, and actually
Yeah.
that's when people relate to you the most. That's when people actually, because all of us share similar struggles, even though not
Yeah.
all of us talk about it, but it's like
Yeah.
everyone struggles with imposter syndrome, with
Yeah.
self-doubt, with fear. It's like the common human uh, stuff, you know?
Mm, mm, mm,
Yeah.
mm. And that's a big
So
part, hey. It's that vulnerability and just that being okay and acknowledging exactly who we are. And it's scary, and it's a scary part, right? Because it feels naked with you feeling seen, like, oh God, what will he or she think of me? X, Y, Z, right?
Yeah.
And but that's when real confidence can actually unfold. And it's even just tapping into that, into how it feels in the body and how it lands when we're performing authority or we're performing positioning versus when
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
embody it. And there's different
Yeah.
ways of like how it's communicated, right? And how it's sub-communicated. I guess tying back to say when you first started out in the coaching industry and to let's
Hmm.
say more so now, what did confidence actually feel like in your body back then versus now?
Hmm. Well, back then, confidence felt like performance. It felt like, mm, okay, I'll tell you what it feels like right now. Right now, it feels like my confidence doesn't depend on what other people think of me or what external circumstances are, or it's not external anymore. Previously, my confidence would depend on the signals that I would receive from my environment, be it people or situations or yeah. So if I feel confident and I walk into a room and I feel confident and somebody reflects that back at me, then I feel confident. But if I don't get any signal or any how do you call that in English? If you don't get any response, let's say, from your outside environment to confirm that, you feel, oh, okay, what is wrong? Like, is something like, how do I look? How do I, like, you start being super self conscious and you start um, looking for someone to affirm that confidence back at you. That's what it felt like before, if that makes
Mm,
sense.
mm,
And
mm, mm,
right now, it feels like it's the confidence that I have, it comes from a very grounded and calm place that
mm,
is probably based on having developed trust in myself now, having developed self-love. Maybe like it's one of the things that if I have to like describe it, it would be something like if the whole world falls apart, you know you have your own back because you trust yourself, you love yourself, and it's okay. And if somebody loves your idea, that's amazing. If somebody
mm,
doesn't, that's also good because you realize that people are like nobody even owes you to agree with you, to like you. People are different. None of like it's just the way it is. So that's how it
mm,
feels. It feels like it doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't
mm.
need to be performative. And I don't need to desperately look for outside feedback to validate the fact that I am who I am and I trust myself and I love myself. And it's really about that, if that makes sense.
It does, and it does, and you
Yeah.
feel like a lot it's like a weight pulled off your own shoulders because a lot of times we impose this upon ourselves, like we could be the worst enemies and so on, and so by feeling into that, you actually feel it actually feels like a lot of expectation is you
Hmm.
surrender a lot of the expectations, and that's when you can
Hmm.
feel more, when they say be yourself, right? This is what it is. Like you feel more free flowing and so on. It's like when you're a child, everybody was a natural before subconscious stories and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And part of adulthood is just remembering who you are, right? Remembering that, tapping into that, and then feeling like exactly, which is what it is, right? So where do you personally feel that at the moment? So you mentioned that in the past, right, it could feel like um your reactions was based on what another person's like emotions were, and then you're like we'll be like managing that, right? But now
Hmm.
but now you feel grounded, right? And just feel okay, right? And just feel that hey, you got your own back and so off, right? Where do you feel that the most?
Mm, can you like clarify what you mean, like where exactly I feel that the most? You mean in what areas of my life, or
Like
I
where
don't
do you feel that to say psychologically, physically, spiritually, and so on?
the groundedness?
The groundedness, yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting question. I feel like that groundedness really comes from knowing that it's not all about you. It's about something bigger than you. I don't know if like um like everyone, I mean, we are spiritual beings, right? That
Mm.
have a human experience. And I feel like remembering that and basing your pretty much existence on knowing that you're not the most important thing here, but it's something bigger than you, whether that's God or the universe, whatever you believe in.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually matter what you believe in. What matters is to recognize that your ego is not the most uh, important thing. And it's very easy for us sometimes to get into our heads and think so much about ourselves or yeah, and it's actually no, like one of the tricks that I do that always helps me when I get too much in my head is to just zoom out, and I actually visualize that. I zoom out on the room that I'm in, on the city that I'm in, on the country, on the planet, and then I realize, okay, we're here just for one split second. There's like so many mysteries in life. There's
Yeah.
like this huge, we don't know what rules the world, whether it's God or consciousness or universe, like what is all those, and you worry about what someone thinks about you. Like, come on. Like all of us share this little like human experience. It's so much fun. Like it can be fun if people see it as that. And one thing that helps me is to first recognize that uh, I'm not in charge always. It's there is always something bigger than me. Like I believe in God, and I base my confidence in that. And the other thing is to keep reminding myself, and it's actually one of the things that I really want to teach people or remind people, is that we are all of us in this together. Like we are on a floating globe in the infinite nothingness. And none of us know what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
Everyone is trying the best they can. We have dreams, we have passions, we have ideas, we have so many things. Like
Yeah.
the last thing we should be doing is fearing what other people think about us or letting ourselves be stopped by that fear, because like come on, like we are
Yeah.
in this together. And people forget that. Like we often think, oh, it's just we think we're very alone in the
Mm.
things we experience, and we're not. Actually, we are not. Like all of us are in
Yeah.
this together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's such a grounded way of doing it, which is zooming back out. And when you zoom back
Yeah.
out, all of a sudden it puts everything in perspective and then it just
Yeah.
becomes light and fun and
Yeah.
playful. And I can't imagine as
Yes.
you were actually funnily enough, as you were saying that, zooming out, almost like Peter Pan, like just zooming out and look at the oh
Yes. That's exactly how I imagine it.
clouds, look at there, and it becomes magical again, you know.
Yes.
Just cultivating that play there. You mentioned a little bit about the kind of work that you want to do, which would be exciting. So moving into this year, right? We're still pretty early. What tell us a little bit about what do you plan? What do you the kind of work that you do in regards to helping people step into boldness and more themselves and so on.
Hmm. That's a good question. So I'm actually writing my first book, and that's
Wow.
one thing that I will be releasing this year. The other thing is I'm planning on creating events, but events that are nothing like what people have probably seen before. It's a an event that is an immersive experience that pretty much combines a very like preachy energy, so it can activate people. We are not
Mm,
like gonna sit and lecture people on what it feels like to be bold. You know, Tony Robbins, like part of the success he has with his events is the energy he brings in the room.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's going to be one of the aspects of the events, and it's going to be combined with a style of burlesque. So I love performance. I'm also a singer, and I want people to explore their creative artistic side
Mm,
at that event and be
mm,
okay to be seen in their element, because right, we want to start feeling comfortable being seen for who we are without performing. But to perform is also, it requires a lot of courage, because you are doing something that feels very um, personal, right? Like if
like
how to
put into
say,
the spotlight,
do you
like
do something
yeah.
right? You are under the spotlight
Hmm.
and you're performing, and you have to be okay with being seen performing. And a lot of people actually have talents that they've never explored because they fear, oh, well, what other people think about me. And that was me. Like, I
Yeah.
love singing, but I always held back. And I was always like a backup singer, or somewhere in the background, or choosing songs that were not what I wanted to sing, but what I thought I could sing without making a mistake. And that's not fun.
Mm,
Like, come
mm,
on, that's not
mm.
fun. Like, we want to sing what we
Yeah.
want to sing, even if we're bad at it. Like, here, we don't talk about even being good at the thing, at your craft. It means it's really about just allowing yourself to follow the creative urge that you have without holding back. Because for me, that's what living a good life is. It's just experiencing the fullness of it without holding back. Because
Yeah, yeah. I just love the point
yeah,
you mentioned about music, just because music's like a big part of when we used to play in a band. I used to play guitar and lead singing, and part of our earlier gigs
nice.
would used to
Uh-huh.
play, we used to play like safer covers, right? Like from say the Strokes, right? Which is a great band, the Arctic Monkeys. But we'd lean into the safer covers where we knew that we can perform it without
There you
messing
go.
it up. But then
Yes,
the thing is, it works, but yeah, you don't feel activated by it. It's
that's the
where
thing.
you, and if you notice some of the covers, like Hosier did one with Hosier did an Arctic Monkeys cover of "Do I Want to Know." It's so different, and it's so
Yeah.
the tempo was a bit different. It was on BBC Radio 1 or something, but it's just so unique that it's just like it was a bit of a refreshing, right, change. And it's the same
Yeah.
thing where you don't always want to sing what you know you can sing because on the edge of your comfort zone is when your body starts feeling this tingly sense of activation, right? But then when you once you have the courage, right, step out into the spotlight and to sing, so oh shit, you're scared. But
Yeah.
then but then on the other side of it is just that feeling of full expression, right? Which comes with adrenaline, which comes with nerves, which comes with excitement, which comes with everything, right? And then now you have a reference point afterwards of wow, that was that was awesome, right? And then you
Yeah.
feel that and you feel expansive, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. And when you dare to be all of who you are, you unconsciously give permission for other people to do the same. Marianne
Yeah.
Williamson said that in her book Return to Love. She has a very famous quote about that. Maybe you've heard about it.
Mm.
And it's like, imagine when you go to a concert and see a performer, a singer, a guitarist, whatever, who doesn't care. They're just in their element, just feeling it with all of their heart, their soul. They close their eyes. They're just enjoying themselves. What do you
Mm.
think about them? You're like, oh, maybe you can cry. Maybe it brings emotion in you because it reflects back at you what you want to do. Even if it's
Yeah.
not singing on stage, it's about the courage to be who you are. Jim Carrey is another example.
Yeah.
Why is he such a good comedian, such a good actor? Because he had said, I follow the impulses the moment I have them. You don't negotiate with the impulse. You just follow it. You don't
Yeah.
second guess yourself. You just follow it. If he had thought, okay, I want to make weird faces, but wait a second, what would the audience think about me? Or it's like, I want to make impressions, but what would like, he's not going to be a good comedian. He's not going to be a good actor. Yeah, so, and that's what we do. So we like for me, my whole thing about with the bold standard is to teach people how to follow the creative urge that they have the moment they have it without negotiating with the mind. Because the mind is always going to come up with a reason why you shouldn't do the thing that you want to do, right? It's just the normal thing. You just have to learn how to not listen to it.
Yeah. And just tap into what you said, there's a recurring theme that comes out, which is a lot of people negotiate themselves out of the desire or negotiate themselves out of curiosity and play. I think this is
Yeah.
where it's funny, the mind makes a subconscious connection there where when you mentioned zooming out and I thought of Peter Pan, there's an element of giving yourself permission to tap back into that, which I think people mistaken as maturity, right? But the part of that
Mhm.
creative process and part of the modality, a beautiful modality of getting there is through music, through sound, through, and you
Yeah.
mentioned Tony Robbins has the energetics of shaking, right, and getting into that
Yeah.
state because it
Mhm.
wakes the body up, right, and it wakes the
Yeah.
mind up. Right, and it frees yourself up in sense of even, for instance, something. One of his goals was if you could if if you knew you could achieve anything, right? Like your 9-year-old self, right? If say finances wasn't an issue, if whatever constraints, what would you do, right? It's sort of like
Hmm.
tapping back into that state there, right? And for a lot of
Hmm.
times, sitting and listening and coaching and tactics and strategies, as you tie back to the beginning there, it makes sense on the intellectual level. And so, as you say, people are in their head. And when they're
Hmm.
trying to externalize what they see a mentor do, right? And but they don't feel in their body, right, what that looks like and what that
Hmm.
feels like,
Hmm.
that's where that
Hmm.
disconnect happens. So which is why I just love
Hmm.
the tying it back
Yeah.
to what you're going to do with
Hmm.
events and festivals, right? Where, okay, here is the overarching themes, right? Now how do we feel into that and tap back into who the fuck we are, right? And
Right. Yeah.
I just love that. So music is one of those things. What else do you find is such a great way of helping people tap into that?
It's also the way you dress. I feel like that's very important.
Yeah.
And for example, because I work with women and I mean, it's pretty much women oriented event, at least the one that I'm going to start with. Maybe eventually we're going to have some people, some men as well. But being dressed as extravagantly as your alter ego wants. Because I think that the alter ego is really a part of who you truly are. You just don't let her play. And I
Yeah.
want people to let their alter ego out and play.
Mm,
And so, for example, putting on one of the aspects of the event that I imagine, or not just at the event, but in everyday life, is to put on the most extravagant or um, classy attire you want, maybe high heels, maybe some dress that you wouldn't actually go out with in your everyday life,
mm,
because you will attract attention. You will attract the eyes of the people. Some will judge you, some will say, oh, that's nice. Others will just pass by you. Like people will have different reactions. And so the exercise is to stand still and be okay, be seen, because you will be seen. Like if you wear something like what I'm wearing right now, like
mm,
okay, you're not going to attract attention, but the exercise is to deliberately attract attention, stand
mm.
still and be okay with being seen by random people that you don't know what they think about you, and just do that for 5 minutes. That's it. That's that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
um and I think it's just the same with singing, right? Because if you are singing, especially something more intimate, something slow like a ballad or like a slow romantic song, you have to be okay with being like seen in a way that is very close, like it's how do you call that, like it's intimate, right? So you are
Yeah.
pretty much exposing yourself again, and if you
Mm,
make a mistake it will be seen. If you
mm,
make a mistake it
mm,
will be, yeah.
mm.
And that's actually one of the reasons why previously I used to always sing rock songs that were very because it
Yeah.
covered. It's like you
Mm.
can cover a mistake, you can cover a false uh,
And it's fast
note,
and it's
or
frenetic and you
it's
can sort of
fast
like
and
blitz
yeah,
over.
yeah. But
Yeah.
when you sing something very intimate and slow, like, and all of the eyes are on you, oh my gosh, that's scary. That's like, what if I actually make a mistake? So it's really like an exposure therapy with singing, with performance, with the burlesque idea that I have, with wearing something very extravagant and going out there and just be still,
Yeah.
let people watch you. Yeah, and the thing is, you just kind of start teaching your mind that it's okay. Nothing actually happens. People actually
Mm.
don't care that much about you that as you think they do, because everyone is too busy being too self-conscious about their own selves
Yeah.
to care about you. Um,
Yeah.
and that actually ties it back to what I said. Like, we are in this together. You may think that you're the only one struggling with self-consciousness or self-doubt or whatever. You are not. Everyone is actually having the same experience. And we shouldn't be playing down because of that. We should be actually playing up, like if that's a word in English. Like we should,
Yeah. There's
yeah,
something
if you get what I mean.
there's something you just said is very fascinating, and you drew that connection between fast and frenetic rock music and just slowing down. It would be interesting to get your takes on this actually. In the past, I sort of like look at say playing frenetic, fast, like rock music as kind of almost you're playing with such speed and such performance that it makes it hard for people to just see you and to observe you and to hold you, whatever, right? But when you slow down, and let's say you're playing, say, a very soulful, bluesy, acoustic, unplugged sort of song,
Mhm.
right? That's when do you what are your thoughts on that? That is when you can feel like you actually can tap into a much deeper place or a different modality. How do you what do you reckon?
I think it's really a few layers fall off because you when you add loud music you have one more layer. If you add like fast pace you add another layer. It's like
Mm,
layers of defense, almost like a shield. There is someone behind all of those layers. That's me. And I
hmm
really want you to like me. I really want to perform well. I love music, but I also want your approval. So I'm going to do what I know I can do, and I'm going to do what would mask potential mistake that I might make. But if
hmm
you take that layer off, if you strip all of it down, and it's just
hmm
you and your voice and eye contact with the audience, which is actually very important as well, right? You know, you are
mm,
a performer.
mm,
And then you are pretty much just allowing them to
mm,
see you naked, like metaphorically naked.
mm,
You are naked
mm,
with your own voice. Like even if you sing, you said acoustically or um, uh, you have just a few layers of shield that have been stripped down, like you've been stripped down naked and you're now exposed for everyone
mm,
to see.
mm,
And that's it. And that's why
mm,
it's scary because now you're not hiding anymore. You are actually who you are. You're showing yourself as who you are. And if somebody judges you when you show yourself or who you truly are, that is when it hurts more than if you show a performative side of you. Because if somebody judges the performative side of you, it's okay. You know that there is a layer deeper
mm.
of you that they still don't know. You know, it's at
Because
least
deep
that's how I
down,
see it.
because deep
Yeah, I
down
don't
you
know
feel
if it
like
makes sense.
they're rejecting the performance. They're
Part
not
of you,
rejecting the self.
yes, or they're rejecting just a part of you, but not
Mm,
all of
the
you.
whole.
They're not rejecting who you truly are deep inside of you. And that's why actually I started singing a lot of slow songs because I was terrified.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, that's how I see it. It makes sense what
It's
I just explained.
it definitely does. It's funny how the arc sort of like plays out, and I sort of see very, very similar, like a lot of similarities there, where um I feel like in the early days, my band days, like I played like the fast, like and so on, and then post Europe when I came back to Australia, that I started writing music again, and the music it was a lot more slower, a lot more bluesier, and it
Mm,
was more. It was less Arctic Monkeys and more Fleetwood Mac, right? Um,
okay,
and that and
nice.
that and that was very, very interesting, right? Very, very revealing and and I think for me, when I revisit, say, fast music, right, it's kind of like not looking at from a performance, right? But now you're okay with your whole self, right? Rather than over relying
Mm,
on fast, frenetic, like performance, right? But
mm,
then it has
mm,
a time where you can enjoy it because it's a modality of expression, but then there are others where you discover your own emotional range. And when you discover your own emotional range by being vulnerable, the scary part on the other side of that discomfort, that comfort zone, is living more fully, more richly, and with more
mm,
depth,
mm,
right? So I think tying back to, if I'm not mistaken, the overall theme that you want to help, specifically women to start with, and then humanity, is to be able to be more of who they are, because uh, and to connect more with themselves, right?
mm,
Because a lot of people in society now um, feel a lot more emotionally flat, right? We have the most
mm.
convenience living in the best time in history, right? A lot of things which previous generations wouldn't even dream of having, right? But it's the disconnection which people feel. But it's like what you said, tying back to firstly, none of us are alone. Like none of us are disconnected, right? We all are connected. It's remembering that, and then it's those modalities to come back home to that. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Come back home to who you truly are. That's the whole thing, actually. You wrapped it up really good. Yeah,
Right.
that's the whole thing.
So tell
Hmm.
us, a little bit about, so tell us, you mentioned about the book, which is going to be really exciting. So when you, yeah, tell us a bit more about the book. Like, when's it, when you think of,
Hmm.
publishing and so on? What's the process
Well,
behind it?
it's been actually quite challenging because it brings a lot of fear, a lot of doubt, a lot of imposter syndrome. Like, who is gonna read that? And also, it's very like I speak about my teenage years. I speak about my traumas. I speak about the whole people pleasing, performative self, and how I like was desperate for external validation. All of that, like that's the first chapter. It's not as tough as it sounds, but like to write it, you have to reflect a lot, and it's a tough process because it drains you emotionally. Um, yeah, I mean not drains you, but it's like emotionally challenging. Let's put it that way. It's emotionally challenging, and it's been taking me some time now, but I need to really just set my mind on finishing it because I have the outline, I have everything. I just need to like fill in the chapters. And I love writing. I mean, I love writing. It's just a
Yeah.
book feels like a big thing, and my perfectionist side sometimes kicks in and I'm like, it's not ready yet, but I'm kind of like overcoming that. And I want to release it. I want to have it written and released by April or uh, yeah, April or May, something like that.
Mhm. Mm.
So, yeah, and the book is about learning how to, it's about what we are talking about, my journey with people pleasing and performance, and how I got to the point where I have developed enough self trust and courage to dare to be who I am and to follow my creative urges and impulses so I can live a more fulfilling life, because that's like my whole thing, my whole idea about like living a fulfilled life. It's about allowing yourself to experience all of the creative urges that you have instead of resisting them and negotiating with your mind. So that's the book. That's what the book is about, and I will let you know when it's ready to be published and when
I
it's
love that.
published.
Love that. Well, Rena, like, I'm awesome to have you on here. Let's do a few quick fire rounds of questions, right, and wrap it up. But if there was a word to sum up a theme for 2026 for you, what would it be?
Oh, to sum up, 2026,
Like,
the
what
year
would
just
your theme
started.
would be?
um,
The intention.
Honestly, growth is what comes to mind.
Mm. Mm.
Yes, it's growth because I'm planning on doing things that I've never done before and really push myself beyond my limits and beyond what I think it's possible. And it's scary, but
Yeah.
I'm so ready and so fired up and so determined to crush it. So, yeah,
Yeah.
growth comes to mind. That's it.
I
That's my
love
word
that.
for
I love that.
2026.
And what would be a song or songs right now that you feel anchors you and grounds you at the moment?
You wouldn't believe it. It's
Try me.
actually It's actually gospel music, but the very old, like, the
Oh wow.
black churches,
Church organs and everything.
black gospel specifically. So that's a very
Wow.
specific type of gospel, which is it fires me up a lot actually, and it's really charging, and it's I love singing it as
Could I
well.
imagine listening to that at the gym? Would it be your pre-workout music? Gregorian
Now at the
organs and
gym, I don't
everything.
listen to that. I listen to more house music in the gym. But
Yeah.
yeah, that would be fun, like just deadlifting and listening to gospel music.
That would be something else though. Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh, and finally, if you go back in time, let's say time travel or whatever have you, and talk to your 21-year-old self, what advice would you give her?
Oh, I would give her an advice to I'll probably just say you have nothing to prove to anyone. Take your time, explore yourself, explore your interests. explore who you are first. And success is not absolutely a must by the age of 25. You are fine. You'll be fine. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything about who you are or your self or your worth. Just take your time. You don't have anything to prove. Just, yeah, I would say
Love
that.
that. Love that. Awesome. So, for anybody who wants to check out your work, your writing, as well as your upcoming book and all your updates and your events and so on, where would be the best place to find you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram, Rina Savova. And you can also check out my Substack, which is the Boat Standard. You can just type it on Google, it's going to come up, the Boat Standard. Or, yeah, or on Spotify, you can also find my podcast. So
Love it. I will make sure to put it in the show notes so everyone can come and check it out. Well, Rena's been awesome to have you on here. And
thank you. It's been awesome having a conversation with you. I had a lot of fun.
amazing, amazing. And when you actually get a chance to deadlift to some gospel music, then do let us know.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning into the Globe Economy podcast. My name is Tuan, and I'll see you in the next episode. Hey, thanks for tuning into the Globe Economy podcast. If this conversation landed with you, then share it with someone in your world who's building their own glow. And if you want to explore these stories deeper, then you can find the full features and the spotlights at theglobeeconomy.com underneath the spotlight, the magazines, and the podcast show notes. My name is Tuan, and this is the architecture of modern feminine power. And we'll see you in the next episode.